David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another special fountain pen review. I say it's a special one because the pen I have to share with you today is indeed very special in my opinion. And that would be a one-of-a-kind creation from Hooligan Georgia. The man behind Hooligan Georgia is Tim Cullen. I reviewed another one of his offerings about this time last year. It was something Tim and I collaborated on, inspired by the movie The Shawshank Redemption. Now, when I say we collaborated on a pen, it involved me coming up with a bunch of ideas for imagery and symbolism, and Tim doing all of the work to make those ideas come to life. And he did an amazing job. The pen is a fantastic combination of craftsmanship and symbolism. And I'll show the pen during the size comparisons here in a bit. And I'll put a link in the notes below where you could check out that review. If you didn't see it last year, I think it's worth a watch, especially to see what the process can be like in ordering a one-of-a-kind pen from a master craftsman. I mentioned this last year, but Tim is based out of Canton, Georgia, which is about 45 minutes north of Atlanta. The name Hooligan was the name of one of Tim's dogs, a Great Dane pit bull mix. And his customers are collectively known as hooligans. Tim's specialty is making unique, one-of-a-kind custom pens, and that includes creating the nibs from scratch as well. If you go to his website, you will not find a store. He doesn't have any pens for sale. What he does is work with his customers to create unique, custom creations. While we had a great deal of back and forth for the Shawshank Redemption model, for this pen I'm about to show you, it was going to be more of a surprise. Other than specifying the nib size, I left the inspiration and talents to create what he felt best represented his work up to Tim. Well, he did ask me one question, whether or not I wanted blue or green, and I said blue. So, what blue pen did Tim create? In order to find out, please join me over here at camera 2. Okay, to begin with, you do receive some documentation with the pen, and I know that it isn't going to fit in the screen here, but you'll get a good idea. It's not important what it says, but it's just really high quality. This is a certificate of authenticity that Tim provides you. It's all on really high quality paper, almost like you want to frame it. Then there's a nice letter talking about the number of my pen, and then it actually goes into detail about the construction of it and what goes into it. And then there is also some other information about your pen. But it's just really nice documentation that's provided with it. But more importantly, you want to know about the pen itself. And it arrived in this sleeve. Let me get everything out of here. And here we have the pen. The pens really do not have names. Like I had mentioned before, that everything is one of one. This is pen number 273, so it doesn't really have a name. I guess we could call it whatever we want to. Maybe in the notes below, give me a suggestion as far as what you feel we should name this pen, because we could name it just about anything if we wanted to. We could name it Jeffrey if we really felt like it. But to begin with, this is a blue lapis lazuli material that was vintage material from Conway Stewart. And so I just feel it looked very interesting because it had, it was not we'll call it crushed ice. It just has more of a flecks of different resin in there. And I thought that provided a significantly different look. And I like the look more than kind of a crushed resin feel to it. In regard to some of the parts and features of this pen, first of all, everything that Tim creates is custom on this pen and one of a kind. So other than the physical resin itself, he created everything on this pen, except for the feed, which he had created custom. But he is a master craftsman as well as a pen maker, and so everything on here he created from scratch. And so, for example, that this clip is made from nickel silver, and here on the top is the Hooligan logo, and then it is hand engraved. Now he calls this a waterfall clip because it basically falls off, and this is hand fashioned and hand engraved. And I remember basically Tim is a perfectionist, that he is not going to let anything leave his shop that he doesn't feel is the utmost quality and that something that he needs to be proud of. And at one point he sent me a picture of the clip, and to my naked eye it looked pretty much exactly like this, and he pretty much said, you know what, I don't like it, I'm going to start all over again. And that's what Tim does, is that if what he has created isn't what he feels is perfect, then he is going to start over again and make it perfect, so that what you have in your hand is his best efforts. And I just like that little flourish there, and thought that it looks very, very nice. So the cap angles up and then straightens out for about the last 2 inches. Then there is a very small transition from the cap to the barrel that is not sharp whatsoever. It's straight for about 1 inch and then tapers down at an even rate of decline until you have a nice flat end. The cap twists off with about 2.5 rotations, and underneath we have what I feel is really one of the highlights of this pen. You can see I do have this inked up right now, and that is this, you know what, I'll call it a number 8 nib, but this is a custom nib that Tim created from scratch. He actually numbers his nibs on my Shawshank Redemption pen. That nib was number 6, and this nib here that you'll see here is number 31. And so he is relatively new to nib making, but has come a very long way since he began doing this. This nib is made from what is called continuum, which is a silver and palladium alloy, and it's very, very nice. It's basically a number 8 nib. And you can see here that the tipping is put on. And for the most part, the tipping's on the bottom side where you are writing as opposed to being on top. So it looks a little bit interesting just because the tipping is on the bottom as opposed to the top. But then it provides a really nice profile when you're looking down at the top of this nib. You can see it's engraved with the Hooligan logo. And then there is a custom ebonite feed that Tim didn't create himself, but he has custom made for him, and it's a dual channel feed. So this pen lays down a significant amount of ink. The section is slightly concave. It begins with a bit of a flare and then angles down and then back up until you have the cap threads and a medium-sized step up to the remainder of the barrel. I do like the length of this section. I tend to grip my pens kind of close to the end, but even if you decide to hold it a little bit further back, it's not going to get in the way. And as I had mentioned before, when Tim creates his pens, they're one-of-one creations, and so you could specify to him exactly what you want, and he will give you exactly what you need. In regard to posting, this pen, it does post slightly. I wouldn't necessarily say it's its strong point. It doesn't post very deeply. I will say it doesn't necessarily backweight the pen. It doesn't even get all the way in the frame, but it just makes it a little bit unwieldy. So for this particular pen, I prefer to use it unposted. Something that I really enjoy is the filling mechanism for this pen. And this is called the Noodler's 308 cartridge. And you know what? It might be a little bit easier if I just show you what one looks like, because he did send an extra one. Here is one of those Noodler's 308 cartridges, and you can see here that it has a rather wide mouth, and it can hold a significant amount of ink. And then on the end here, there is a little cap. And when you take it off, this end is sealed, so by taking it off, nothing happens. But if you should happen to want to carry a spare cartridge with ink in it, that you could go ahead and fill this up, and then you can go ahead and take it with you, and there's no risk of it leaking because this is sealed on this side, and you have it capped here. And then just to show you again, this is what it looks like then when it is in the pen. And obviously this is inked right now. And as I keep touching the ebonite feed, that you could see I'm getting ink on my hands. But it's a very nice system and something that I actually enjoy. And it holds a fair amount of ink. So let's go ahead and take a look at some size comparisons and then some measurements as well. Here we go with some size comparisons for this Hooligan Georgia offering. Here it is with a Santini Giant 8. You can see that these are both very large pens. And then here it is with a Montblanc Alfred Hitchcock. And then here it is with a Classic Pens LB5. Let's kind of make those a little bit better in the screen. And then in regard to some other pens, here it is with a Namiki Emperor. And then here it is with a Pilot Custom 845 in the vermilion. And then finally, I mentioned that I would show it here. You know what? Let's go ahead and move these out of the way. This is the Shawshank Redemption pen that he created. Now, I mean, I'm not going to go too much into all of the symbolism that's in this pen because there's a lot of it, especially if you're a fan of the movie. You'll notice some of it. We have Brooks was here and so was Red. And this is Andy's prisoner number. But what's really special is this wood right here is wood from the actual tree that was in the movie. And that was because that tree was actually felled by a storm. And so they were selling off some of the wood. And so that I thought that it was really cool that we were able to implement something that was actually in the film into the pen. And then also one of my favorite things is it's really hard to see here, but under the clip, I'm not sure if you could really see that, but under the clip, it's engraved with Zewataneo, which is a bit of a secret in the film. And so I thought it'd be fun to include that secret in a secret place. We have a rock hammer here, and then on the nib itself, again, this is one of Tim's nibs that he created, and we have the crow, which is Jake. So yeah, this was a very special pen. And if you'd like to see how it was created and more information on it, then you can check out the link in the notes below. In regard to some uncapped comparisons, here it is with the 845. Here it is with the Classic Pens LB5. And then finally, here it is with the Santini Giant 8. Here we go with the writing sample for the Hooligan Georgia. We'll just call this lapis lazuli. But as I mentioned before, you could maybe suggest a name in the notes below. And this is a medium nib. And the ink that I'm using is one of my favorites, which is Pilot Irosuzuku Kujaku. This is what the ink looks like. It's kind of a nice kind of bronze oxidation color that kind of goes on a little bit more blue and dries a little bit more blue-green. Here it is with Leonardo's Smeraldo. And then here it is with Sailor's Yamadori. This is the Pilot Iroshizuku bottle. You can see that this bottle is well loved. It's one of my favorite bottles. I just love this little teardrop down here. It just looks great sitting on a desk. And the inks are fantastic as well. And here we go with the rest of the writing sample. Am I going to fit? If I can spell dog right. This nib is not necessarily meant for flexing, but you can see that even though this is a medium, it does lay down a rather fat line. This is a very generous medium. I'd say it's extremely wet, as can be seen here. In regard to reverse writing, it's even wetter on the reverse writing. And then in regard to fast writing, being really wet, it has no issues in keeping up. So there we have the Hooligan Georgia. Like I said, we'll call it the lapis lazuli, but let me know in the notes below what you feel we should name it. If you are interested in a one-of-a-kind creation that is something very special, then I would thoroughly recommend reaching out to Tim Cullen of Hooligan Georgia to see what he could do for you. The pens are not inexpensive, but then if you are going to have something that's a one-of-a-kind creation created by a master craftsman, that is not going to come at an insignificant price. But what you will receive, I could pretty much guarantee that you'll be thrilled with for the rest of your life. Okay, until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.